Hey, it's Sarah Larby, producer and guest host of Everyday Investor. I retired recently in 2020, and this show is about helping you think outside the box, have your money grow for you, and so you don't have to live in the rat race for 30 plus years. We're going to show you how to do it sooner and more efficiently. Don't go anywhere. Today we are talking to my good friend. Wait for it. We'll be right back. This week we are talking to my good friend Gary Hibbert on the buy and hold strategy.
So it's always about getting into the market now, right? It's not about trying to time the market. It is always about time in the market, because you never know when it's going to go down. And number two, don't try to speculate.
The mortgage world has changed. Has your advice? Are you looking for a modern approach to your mortgage planning process? Advice tailored to your unique, ever-changing circumstances? Whether you're upsizing, downsizing, purchasing, or refinancing, the Kyle Ford Mortgage team works with individuals and companies to custom tailor the right mortgage product for you. Working with a wide selection of lenders, we're here to serve our clients and help them achieve their real estate and retirement goals. Contact the Kyle Ford Mortgage team today, Canada's mortgage choice.
Hey, it's Sarah. Welcome back to the Everyday Investor. And before we bring in Gary Hibbert, let's see what's interesting and new in the world of stocks with Omar Khan. Over to you, Omar.
Thanks, Sarah. Omar Khan, guys, here with Data Trading, weekly market update. The markets have been doing poorly in September and thus far in October. And the main concern right now that the markets are concerned about and the economy in general is supply chain. That's the word of the day. Or words of the day. So supply chain constraints. You guys have probably seen it when you look at buy something, maybe a piece of electronics, a car. There is an issue getting the products that the consumer is asking for. This is causing a bit of an issue when it comes to earnings for some companies. This is kind of dragging the market down. But let's see how corporate earnings coming in. They're starting to come up in October, so let's see how they come in. And from there, we'll gauge how the rest of the year will do. I'm pretty optimistic. I think a lot of the companies, especially the software and tech-based companies, are going to do pretty well. But let's see. Back over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Omar. And now let's get on with our show. Gary, welcome. How are you?
I am excellent, Sarah. Always great to see you, and thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I mean, you are inspirational. I think we met maybe 2-3 years ago at my cottage, realized we were cottage neighbors, and you are living the lifestyle. You have the freedom, all because of real estate. So how did you get started in real estate investing? Let's start there.
Yeah, so I got started in real estate investing back in 2008. And the reason why I ended up getting involved in it was because, and I'll kind of go through the story quick, but I think it's an important story, was when the financial crisis was happening in the US. That didn't really happen up here in Canada. However, some companies were getting prepared for it to happen. And so I was working at TD Bank, and I'll never forget this day. We call it Black Monday. And so we're going to work, sat down at my cubicle, and I saw one of my coworkers get called in. He comes out. And you know, when you see the look of death on somebody's face, he had just got let go. And I got real nervous, you know, because I knew that it was on, and all day they kept calling people into the office, and I couldn't lose my job. You know, I just had bought a house, 2 young kids, and finally 4 o'clock rolls around. The manager comes out of the office and he goes, "All right, whoever's left, you guys are safe." And I remember driving home, I said, never again do I ever want somebody to be in control of my financial freedom or future. But the difficult thing was, you know, like, what do you do? How do you break out of that 9-to-5 chain? And the one thing that I realized was that real estate always seemed to be outpacing my income. And so once I understood that, you know, well, look, my house had bailed me out a couple of times. Why don't I maybe just go purchase one additional investment property? And that's what I did. And from there, I started studying history, started hanging out with people that were where I wanted to be. And really the rest is history. It allowed me to quit my full-time job. And I am where I am today with a lot of hard work. But you know what, whether you're at your 9-to-5 or you're an entrepreneur, there's hard work always involved, right?
Absolutely. I mean, how long did it take you from when you started buying real estate investing for you to say, I can actually officially leave my 9-to-5 and never look back?
Well, so I started in 2008, and from 2008 to 2010, I purchased 2 investment properties. But I wasn't ever thinking, okay, well, you know, this is really going to get me out of it, because it wasn't any kind of super huge cash flow. But when I started our company in 2010, that is when I really kind of put the pedal to the metal. It probably took about 4 years. And so 2014 is when I finally made a decision that, you know what, let me see if I can actually make a real good run at this. And that's when it all really kind of took transformation.
Okay, so a handful of years, and you were able to leave and create a different lifestyle and different goals. Let's fast forward maybe to today. How has real estate investing changed, and what are you doing differently that you couldn't have done 10 years ago or when you were first starting?
Yeah, great question. So here's one of the things that I did in the beginning, I think, which was really important, was I understood the importance of SMART goals. And they had taught this at TD as well, too. And so once I understood that, this is when we went out and we got a whiteboard and we started writing down everything that we wanted. And I remember we had the kids sit around the table with us, and we put a company's name right in the middle, and we started writing down everything that we wanted from what we were striving for. Hey, how much money do you want to make every single month? We want to make $1 million. All right, cool. What else do you guys want? We want a mascot. Fantastic. What else? We want 2 months of vacation. 2 months. How about 4 months of vacation? So really what it was we didn't care how big the dream was or the goals were, how lofty were. We just wanted the kids to see and understand that this was about dreaming. This is about, setting, not just settling. And so once we said 4 months vacation, like, hey, maybe we should build a business around that. That sounds actually pretty cool. And so we took July and August off. We shut the company down. And then we also shut the company down in December and January. And then what we realized was that, hold on a second, everybody's all caught up on retiring at the age of 65. But meanwhile, we were now building this business around mini retirements. And this is now where we're like, well, look, we're still young. We can still jump on the Sea-Doos. We can still have fun while our bodies can, take all that punishment. And that is what we created, mini retirements. And that is what I would say, doing what we've done has allowed me to do that with my friends and my family and enjoy life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you take your summers off, you can spend it with the kids. I think you take January, February, you guys, travel as a family. And all that good stuff. And I think, that's the first time I heard of mini retirement, something different than just waiting till you're 60 or 65 years old to be able to put your feet up. I think that's a great concept. And when you talk about business, like, what is the business that you have right now that you're able to do that with?
Yeah, so we have a real estate investment company. It's an education company. Really what we do is we teach and mentor investors on how to invest in real estate. And the reason why we called our company Smart Home Choice was, people say, well, that doesn't sound like a real estate investment company. But because what we realized was that it's about goals. And so we use that SMART goal and put it into the business name. It's about finding out what is it that drives you, what is your passion, and what is your why. And once you can figure that out from the beginning by writing down what you want in life, then that is the path to, I would say, freedom. That's what it's all about. Freedom and being content and being happy with where life is taking you, right? Don't get caught up in the destination, but enjoy the journey.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it keeps you focused. It keeps you moving into the direction that you want to go into, because life can get in the way. And one of the things that you and I often talk about is, do you buy now? Do you try to time the market? Or is there a better, chance to just buy and then just wait it out? And, I think both you and I have been in the market for a while, that we've been able to ride a little bit of that appreciation, get the mortgage paid down, get the cash flow going. And so if somebody does ask you, should I wait until there's a potential crash, or should I get in now? Like, what do you tell them?
My simple answer is, two things. Number one, when we first entered into the pandemic, I interviewed lots of people. We had lots of webinars. Nobody predicted that we would be where we are today. So it doesn't matter who or what. Nobody knows the future. So it's always about getting into the market now, right? It's not about trying to time the market. It is always about time in the market, because you never know when it's going to go down. And number two, don't try to speculate, right? Because people get caught, and I've seen it happen before, where if you speculate, you can really get caught. So take the speculation piece out. And so how do you do that? Very easy. Don't worry about the appreciation. just think of appreciation as icing on the cake. So then focus on cash flow. And if you focus on cash flow, it makes real estate investing so much easier. And so, yes, I get it. That there are certain areas that it's difficult to cash flow. Then move to another location. Find experts in that particular city. Build a power team in that city. It doesn't always need to be just in your backyard. It can be, across the field.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned cash flow. I'm a big proponent of cash flow as well. And when I look back and I say what's created my wealth or wealth of many real estate investors, oftentimes it's just holding on to the properties, and it's time over time. You have the mortgage pay down, like you said, appreciation is icing on the cake, and the cash flow. And do you know, I mean, obviously you invest in a few different markets, but you have some favorite markets right now, whether it's within Ontario or elsewhere that you would recommend?
Yeah, one of my favorite markets I would say right now is Peterborough. Love Peterborough. I think it's a fantastic market. I think there's lots of great opportunity there still. And also just in that surrounding area, where if you can't find a great deal in Peterborough, there are surrounding areas, lots of little small markets that still feed back into Peterborough. So people that want to stay in Peterborough, but maybe they've been priced out and they're renting, they can move into some of those smaller markets and still kind of come back into Peterborough in a short, quick ride.
Awesome. And you mentioned cash flow, and there's lots of ways that investors will look at cash flow, but I think it's important to maybe just break that down a little bit, because it's not just your mortgage and the taxes, but there's other things to account for when you're calculating cash flow. What are some other things that we'd want to account for as we're figuring out, does this piece of property cash flow, am I going to make money at the end of the month, or is it going to cost me money?
Yeah, so you picked up, hit two there that are good. So your mortgage, your taxes. You also want to know what your insurance is each and every month. Are the tenants paying for the utilities, or are you doing it all inclusive, right? So these are things that you need to pay attention to when you're analyzing. And I would say this is probably one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of investors make in the beginning, is where they jump into an investment property and they haven't ran the numbers. When you don't run your numbers, this is where people make the biggest mistakes. And so every month, my team and I, we're always doing a quick fast start class to teach people, run your numbers, analyze how this deal works, and put cushions in there. And what do they call it again now? Over promise, under promise, and over deliver.
That's it.
Right?
You've got to, right? Cash flow is king. It's going to be able to help, I think, a lot of investors ride the waves, because if something happens, if the market drops 20%, 30%, 10%, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? That cash flow and the ability to keep collecting payments and getting that surplus is going to be able to keep you in that market for 10, 20 plus years. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
At Theta Training, our goal is to help you achieve financial freedom by teaching you the foundations of trading stock options. Join our growing community. Learn through our live-streamed weekend course, or develop your skills at your own pace online. Understand how the stock market works and how you can use the options market to earn additional income. Achieve financial freedom and live life on your terms. Let us help you build your empire.
Welcome back to the Everyday Investor. I am Sarah, and before we show the numbers and a really awesome deal that Gary has been able to do, let's bring in Kyle to talk about the world of mortgages today and what's important. Over to you, Kyle.
Thanks, Sarah. This week, I want to talk about why do investors borrow money at high interest rates? We've all heard of second mortgages, 10, 12, 14%. Why would somebody pay that rate? Well, many consumers may be in a bad position. They're paying high interest credit cards. They have debt everywhere that's resulting in higher monthly payments. And a consolidated second mortgage for a consumer could be a saving grace to reduce monthly expenses and reduce overall interest. But as an investor, why would somebody who's an astute business person pay those rates of return? Well, the answer is simple. Their rate of return is higher. If you have the ability to borrow money on an investment property at 10% and make a higher return because of your strategy being value-added renovations, adding units, increasing square footage, whatever that may be, you're increasing the value of the property much beyond the 10% that you borrow. So many people come to me on a regular basis saying, Kyle, why would this person who is apparently such a successful investor borrow my money at 10%? The answer is simple. Their rate of return is higher. If you're looking for quality lending opportunities and the ability to invest your funds into real estate on investor-focused type deals, don't hesitate to reach out to myself and the Kyle Ford Mortgage team. Thanks. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Kyle. That was awesome. All right, Gary, I would love to dissect one of the many deals that you've done that is part of your portfolio. And which one are we talking about today?
Yeah, so we'll talk about a property that I picked up in 2017 in Oshawa, and this is an interesting one. So I think this will be good for the viewers to kind of go through, and we'll walk through the whole analysis of it.
All right, perfect. Before we do get into it, where did you find this property? Was it on the MLS? Was it off the MLS, from a wholesaler? Where did it come from?
So it came, it was an off-market deal. I went into it and I saw what some of these other homes were going for in the area. And the numbers made sense right off the bat, right? So it was off-market.
Can you just define like what off-market means? Just somebody that's viewing this from home and they're like, well, how do I find this off-market opportunity? Can you expand a little bit?
Yeah, so off-market opportunities are, they can come in different ways. It would be something where maybe you join like a particular newsletter where somebody's sending out something where only people that are on a particular distribution list is getting access to it. Or if you have a large enough network, or if you're putting out advertisements, sometimes potential buyers will call you and say, hey, look, you know what? I'm trying to save a bit of money on the real estate side of things. Can you come and analyze my deal? So these would be properties that not everybody would have access to, and so you have less people trying to put their hands in the cookie jar.
So let's dig into this opportunity.
Yes.
What was the purchase price in Oshawa back in 2017 for this property?
Yeah, so this was a raised bungalow, and the purchase price on this back in 2017 was $389. So $389,000.
So $389. Back then, was that average? Was it over, underpriced?
Yeah, so back then that was under, on that street they were going for about $450 approximately. So we'd made money on the buy right off the bat.
You made money on the buy. Perfect. And what was the down payment for that?
So the down payment on that one was $78,000.
$78,000. Did you get a conventional 80% loan to value from like a big bank type of thing as a mortgage?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So $78,000 closing costs.
Closing costs were approximately $6,000 for this property.
All right, $6,000. So you closed on it, and then what happened?
So what happened then, during the, prior to closing, we had our contractors come in, take a look at it, give us a quote. After it closed, then we pretty much went right to the city, got the permits, and we started demolition the property, which cost us approximately $61,000. It was light reno upstairs. It was probably maybe around 10, and then downstairs was the rest of the renovation money.
Okay, so now this property, was it a single family property that you then converted into 2 units, or was there already the 2 units in place?
No, so it was a single family, and so then we had to put that second unit into the lower.
All right. And I mean, obviously you have a lot of experience, but who are some of the team members that you would want on your team to be able to help you maneuver through these conversions? Like, who are some people that you're like, you have to have one of these on your team?
Yeah, so while you're going through the conversion, you want to make sure that you've got a good contractor. That's definitely number one. And if you got a good contractor, they potentially could have the whole entire team. If you get a general contractor where, they're bringing in the plumbers, the electricians, the person that's going to design what that property or the lower unit is going to look like, right? So the contractor is incredibly important. And also too, and I think people forget this, is the other person on the team is the city. I think a lot of times people are scared to work with the city, or they don't want to talk with them, but I go right in there and I talk to the city, because sometimes there are things that they have seen that I may not have seen, where I couldn't imagine, okay, maybe we could do this, and they'll give me ideas. So don't be scared to work with the city. So those two I think are incredibly important.
Yeah. What do you think about like a BCIN designer, like somebody that helps maneuver going back and forth from the city, getting the drawings done, getting the permits approved? Do you have one of those?
Yeah, and that's something you can definitely have as well too. But again, if you've got a good contractor will have a BCIN potentially right in their team. So you could go out and get your own, or you can find it from the general contractor. Hey, do you have somebody who's BCIN?
Awesome. So you spent 61,000,
Yep.
and then was your original plan to buy and hold, to refinance? What was the original plan after you were to do the renos?
Yeah, good question. So the original plan was to do the renovation. When we were done, we would go back to the bank, we would refinance it, pull that money out, and essentially just flipping it to ourselves and hold on to that property. That was our plan, right from. Yep.
So you wanted to burr it and then hold it.
Exactly.
And this was in 2017, and so what actually ended up happening?
So what ended up happening was a couple days later, so we bought this property on April 20th. A couple days later, Kathleen Wynne decided to come out with this new legislation, the foreign tax. And as you remember, the market then took a hit. And again, this is where it comes down to, not speculating. And so we were not concerned with where that market was going, because you never know. You never know when that roller coaster ride is going to come down. And so when it did come down, when we were all said and done, we knew the ARV wasn't going to be where we needed it to be, and it wasn't. And those homes at that point in time were going for about 400,000 approximately. So a lot of people look at that and they're like, "Oh my God, this is horrible." However, we'll get to the next part right after this, right? And this is a great example to show people that it doesn't always go the way that you expect it to go, and that's fine. Right.
And I want to thank you for being able to showcase this, because we see so many things on TV that it's like, all this awesomeness, and there are some realities to investing in real estate. There are some downsides to investing in real estate. However, there's also lots of upside. But in this situation, your ARV being 400,000 was, like essentially you put in 61,000, you put in $6,000 from the closing costs and your down payment, and you're not able to pull any of that money out, right? And so,
right.
And that could be the reality sometimes, depending on what happens to the market, right? I mean, who knows what's going to be happening in the next year or two? But let's talk about the rest of it. So what did you do afterwards?
The cash flow on this property worked out to $1,250 a month, or $15,000 a year. Now that's great, because that's actually money that you can now put into your pocket, or if you need to, groceries, car payment, whatever you want to do with that money, right? So that's actually going right into your pocket.
So you looked at this and you said, I'm going to keep it for cash flow.
Yep. And
even if you didn't really get the ARV at this point in time that you wanted to be able to refinance and pull your money out, it still cash flowed $15,000 a year, fairly passively, of course. There's
Yep.
always a little bit of stuff to do, but buying on cash flow allowed you to essentially hold it and ride the wave back up.
Exactly.
So now, what did you do afterwards? So you had this money in there, it was cash flowing, and what was next?
Yeah, so really what we waited for was that market to come back around, which we felt confident that eventually it would go back up, and it did. And so now fast forward to 2021, we then saw what the market was doing. We decided that we would then go to the bank. Prior to doing that, we just did a quick analysis and saw what some of these homes are going for on that street and in the area, and they were at that 700,000 mark. And we're like, okay, now is the time to do that refinance. So we went in, got it appraised, and it came back at 700,000.
So time in the market, not timing it,
Right.
is really what was able to help you refinance later, right? So it's not the end of the world. You were cash flowing, you were still, covering your costs, essentially making a little bit of money, and you were able to refinance at $700,000. So what does that do for your numbers? What does that look like?
Yeah, so for the numbers at that point in time now, so we got to remember that I've put in $78,000 for the down payment, $6,000 for closing costs, $61,000 for the renos. So that equals what, 145,000? Is that approximately right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're 145,000 now into it. And the mortgage now was what the new 700K is 560,000, right? And then we had the old mortgage of 311. Quick math on that is approximately 250. Is that approximately right? Somewhere
so
around
you're
there.
pulling out. So essentially, what happens when you're refinancing at $700,000 is the bank is gonna give you a loan of 80% loan to value in this case. So you got to keep 20% in the deal. That's 560. That's the new mortgage minus, it might be a little bit less than 311 with the years and the mortgage pay down. But essentially, for quick, simple math, you're looking at 250K that you were able to at that point pull out. And then what did you do with that 250K?
So what we did was we then, put back the money back on the
Other
home
than
line of
celebrating,
credit.
of course.
Yeah, we're celebrating as well too. So we put back 145,000 back under that line of credit, and then we're able to pocket the rest, which we then used towards the purchase of another investment property, which we went into Peterborough and grabbed another property.
All right, so that's cool. So you essentially were able to pull out 250. You're paying back your 145. What was the surplus in your pocket at the end of the day?
The surplus for everything was 250,000.
250,000. So you're left with about $105,000 after you paid back your 145. So that's pretty awesome. Just
Yeah.
after a few years. Prior to that, so I think ultimately you've pulled out all of your money and your infinity in terms of your return on your investment. But prior to this year of 2021, when you were refinancing, what was your typical mortgage paydown?
So typical mortgage paydown was approximately $4,000 annually. And I think also too, you got to remember that some of that is also going towards your interest, but principal was $4,000.
Okay, so your principal was 4,000. Before the last couple years, what was an average appreciation?
Average appreciation about 5%. But now keep in mind now, we've had an unprecedented appreciation over the last year. So that really, if you want to take a look at it over the last course of the 4 years, we were about 26% each year.
So your before this refinance, essentially your appreciation before the last couple of years of 26%, because we can't always count that. 5% roughly is what, 20,000 bucks a year? 20.
Yes,
20
approximately.
grand. Okay.
Correct.
So 20 grand in appreciation. So your return on your investment for the first few years, when we look at your mortgage paydown, appreciation, and cash flow, the profit of that is $39,000, right? And you spent 145 so far. So what would your original ROI be?
So the original ROI on this annually was 26%.
Okay, so 26% ROI before the refinance as a buy and hold, and then you went ahead and you refinance, and what does that look like today?
So when I refinance it, you're looking at what's the question, Sarah?
The question is that it's infinity, right? Because essentially...
Oh, right. Yes, correct. So once you take it out, yeah, you got an infinity return. Absolutely. And so now I've got nothing in this actual deal at this point in time.
So all your money is out. You've got $105,000 that you can redeploy into something bigger, something better. What's next for you, Gary?
So what's next for me is I'm very comfortable with where I am in regards to my portfolio. I may grow it, but right now my focus is helping beginning investors get into real estate investing, having my team take them out and look for properties. But where my enjoyment comes from is doing the podcast, learning from other people that are doing well in real estate investing, entrepreneurial. And so that's what I'm really kind of focusing on. And we'll see where this ride takes us, because I'm really more enjoying the journey.
Amazing. Gary, thank you for sharing so much wonderful information, knowledge, insights. I will see you at the cottage very shortly. Thank you very much.
All right. Looking forward to Sarah. And thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
And thank you, viewers at home. Without you, we would not have a show. Don't forget to tune in next week. Same channel, same time, same day. See you soon.